I want to go. My husband will soon call me.
Come on, let's dance a little.
No, I did not tell my husband I was going out.
Aaron was my husband's best friend. They had been friends for over a decade, and my husband trusted him completely. Each time my husband traveled, he always told him to check up on me. I became so close to Aaron, and before I realized it, my husband's best friend had become everything my husband was not. But before I tell you how I got here, please like and subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. And comment where you are watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. Now, sit back, relax, and listen carefully. People thought I was lucky. That was the word they always used, lucky. They said it when they saw my husband step out of his car in expensive suits. They said it when they heard his name mentioned in business circles. They said it when they saw the house we lived in, the cars we drive. You're blessed, they told me. You married well. My husband Nathan was successful, respected, admired. He wore confidence like a tailored suit. Wherever he went, doors opened. People listened. At our wedding reception, I watched him move from table to table, laughing loudly, shaking hands, discussing contracts, future investments, opportunities that couldn't wait, even on our wedding day. I stood there in my white dress, smiling at guests who congratulated me, while my husband's phone vibrated endlessly in his pocket. I didn't complain. I told myself ambition was attractive. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself this was the price of success. I didn't know temporary would turn into my permanent state. Marriage to Nathan felt like being married to potential. He was always becoming something, always chasing the next version of himself, always 5 steps ahead, never fully present. Our mornings were rushed, our nights were short, our conversations were practical. Business trips came often, then more often, then so frequently that I stopped counting. Sometimes he'd call from another country, his voice rushed, distracted, background noise swallowing half his words. I landed safely. I'll be busy tomorrow. That was it. No, I miss you. No, how are you holding up? No, hope you are not lonely. When I tried to explain how empty the house felt, how silence followed me from room to room, he laughed gently like I was being dramatic. Baby, don't stress. I'll send you money. Buy something nice. And he did. Money arrived instantly. Connection did not. Aaron had been part of our lives from the very beginning. They had grown up together, built dreams together, failed and succeeded side by side. Where Nathan was loud, Aaron was calm. Where Nathan rushed, Aaron observed. Where Nathan spoke over people, Aaron listened. At first, Aaron was just familiar. He helped us move into our house when Nathan was too busy to supervise. He fixed loose hinges, changed light bulbs, adjusted things Nathan promised he would get to later. Whenever Nathan traveled, Aaron would call. Your husband asked me to check on you, he'd say casually. Sometimes he came with groceries, sometimes with takeout, sometimes with nothing at all except conversation. We would gist and laugh. Sometimes he'd take me shopping. You've been indoors all week. That's not healthy. Let's step out. It felt harmless. After all, he was family. The first moment I noticed Aaron differently was small, almost invisible. Nathan had been gone for 3 weeks. I hadn't spoken to an adult face to face in days. Aaron stopped by to drop off some documents Nathan had asked him to deliver. You look tired, he said gently.
I'm fine, I replied sharply. But he didn't move on.
He studied my face quietly, like he was listening to something I wasn't saying. "You don't sound fine." He stepped closer, held my hands and looked straight into my eyes. Not searching, not demanding, just present. "You know you can tell me anything," he said softly. He pulled a chair and sat beside me. "What's going on?" And something inside me cracked. I talked. I talked about the quiet, about eating meals alone, about sleeping in a bed that felt too big. He listened. No interruptions, no advice, no phone. Silence with him felt safe. After that day, something shifted. Quietly, Aaron started checking in more often. "How was your day? Did you eat? How are you feeling today?" Simple questions, but they landed deeply. One evening, while Nathan was away again, the power went out. The house fell into darkness. I turned on the generator and sat on the couch, scrolling aimlessly on my phone, feeling the weight of the quiet. Then the doorbell rang. "Aaron." "As I was passing, I noticed your street was dark," he said. "Just checking." We sat in the living room. That night, we talked longer than we should have. About childhood memories, about disappointments, about dreams that didn't quite happen. I laughed. Real laughter. At some point, I realized hours had passed. Aaron glanced at his watch and stood up abruptly. I should go. Something twisted inside my chest. I didn't want him to go. After that night, I began noticing patterns. Aaron remembered small details. How I liked my tea, the books I enjoyed, the music that made me quiet. Nathan didn't. When I mentioned feeling overwhelmed, Nathan sent money. When I mentioned it to Aaron, he asked questions. How long have you felt this way? What do you need right now? No one had asked me that in a long time. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The closeness grew slowly. We never crossed lines, but we walked dangerously close to them. Aaron started dropping by during the day sometimes. We cooked together, cleaned together, sat in silence listening to music. Sometimes we shared stories so personal they felt like secrets. I started dressing better when I knew Aaron might stop by. Not intentionally. At least that's what I told myself. One afternoon, while we sat on the patio watching the sun dip low, Aaron spoke quietly. You deserve more than silence. I froze. What do you mean? He shrugged slightly. You are always waiting for someone who isn't here. That sentence stayed with me. One evening, I was feeling overwhelmed. I called Aaron. He answered immediately. He always did. That was when fear crept in. I knew this wasn't healthy. I told myself I needed boundaries, but he's the only person that keeps me company. The following day, rain poured heavily. Thunder rattled the windows. Aaron came by to return something Nathan had asked for. We sat in silence, listening to the storm. Everywhere was cold. Aaron moved closely to where I was sitting. My heart was beating fast. He placed his hands softly over mine and said, I care about you more than I should. The words hung between us. For a moment, just one, neither of us moved. The air felt charged, heavy. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. As he leaned closer, bringing his face towards mine, I stood up suddenly. No, I said, my voice shaking. This can't happen. Aaron nodded slowly and said, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. He stood up and left. That night, I didn't sleep. I realized something terrifying. I hadn't fallen for Aaron because he was extraordinary. I had fallen because my marriage had made me invisible. I called Nathan that night. When he answered, my voice broke. I told him everything. Not to punish him, not to justify myself, but because silence had almost destroyed me once already. Nathan flew home the next day. For the first time, he sat still and listened. No phone, no interruptions, just him and the truth. He just softly, I didn't know you were that lonely. His anger was sharp but brief, not at me, at himself, and at Aaron. I trusted him, Nathan said quietly. How could he do something like that? I tried to defend Aaron, but Nathan shook his head. He left a door open, he admitted, but he shouldn't have stood in the doorway. That was the last time Aaron came to our house. Nathan cut all ties with him. Then Nathan did something I never expected. He changed. He delegated travel to his staff. He stopped chasing every opportunity. When travel was unavoidable, he took me with him. Hotel rooms turned into late-night conversations. Flights became shared experiences, not separations. He started asking how I felt and listening. Healing wasn't instant. Trust took time. But presence did what money never could. I learned something important during that season. You don't fall into temptation because you are evil. You fall into it because something essential is missing. This story isn't about an affair. It's about what happens when emotional needs are ignored long enough to seek shelter elsewhere. Neglect doesn't scream. It whispers. And if you don't listen, it will eventually speak through consequences. We didn't save our marriage because we were perfect. We saved it because we spoke before it was too late. Thank you so much for watching. What did you learn from this story? Leave it in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe.